Hello, everyone. My name is Barbara Marie-Louise Pavelka. I'm Austrian. I'm an actress and an opera singer, voice coach, jazz singer, chanson singer. So I'm already on stage since very early on. And I'm also a specialist in theology of the body, what this channel is about. And I decided to do mainly in German, but I think this is a topic not so well addressed in the theology of the body community in the English speaking world as well. That's why I dare to do those videos that I do in German as well in English, because I think it's something absolutely underestimated. Shortly to me, I was always believing Catholic. Nevertheless, I only lived what I understood and what I thought, nope, this is not up to date in our modern time. I didn't live when I was young. Until I had a very big crisis during my acting education, which I did in Berlin in Germany. And due to this very severe breakdown, I would say, which is a little bit normal when you do an acting education, I had an encounter with the Lord, with Jesus, and there I started to understand a little bit more. And that's when I decided, okay, my plan is now at an end. So now let's do it according to your will. I was 20 at that time, and it was due to some colleagues in my acting education. And we had a group that was meeting every 2 weeks on a Saturday, eating together, praying together, talking a lot about acting, life as an actor, and being faithful to God, and how this works together. So that's what I'm trying to paraphrase now a little, because to be honest, acting and singing, and those are the two languages that I do speak, that are really part of what and who I am, and part of my personality. And God is someone who always speaks according to you, according to your personality. And this is the language that I understand. And so he used this language in order to let me understand things about the theology. And that's what I want to go into depth. So I don't know how long this video will be. I hope, please understand that English is not my first language. It's not my mother tongue. My mother tongue is German. So I apologize if I use some maybe incorrect words. I don't know. So I try to do it as best as I can. What you didn't understand, please write down in the comments. I'd appreciate this. And this theology of the body language, theology of the body channel is a bilingual channel, although most of the content is in German. As I happen to do some content for the theology of the body educators, I also started doing some parts of it in English. And so maybe I'm going to do this a little bit more now. Yeah, mainly I'm at the moment a teacher, a voice teacher. I do use my acting and especially my singing skills in my parish with meditative concerts of the classical music, because most of the classical music was originally composed in order to have a musical meditation on some topics, subjects, events of church life, the faith, and Jesus Christ. and Mary. So now to start a little bit, my way also to faith was that before I started to study acting, theater acting mainly, so I'm more a stage person. I'm not so much into film because I think I never really tried it as well. So, I mean, I did make some short films, but not so much. So I'm more on the stage, and which means that I have an approach, when I act on stage, and normally develop the role from beginning to the end. So as in films, it's a little bit, you could do one scene from the end and then from the beginning. So this is a little bit a different approach, although there is a lot of in common. So it's not so different on the other hand as well. And the basic terms of developing a role is nearly the same. So like the same in singing, the different styles in singing, like jazz or chanson or opera, classical music, is mainly tiny little changes that you do, but the main basics are the same. So that's really how it is. Okay, so before I had this wonderful encounter with God, which was very natural. It was not spectacular. It was more like the most natural thing in the world. He, what I know now, prepared me for this. And one of the preparations he did was that I used to study, before I started studying acting, used to study Arabistics, so about the Arab culture and language, which is very interesting for me. I did it not due to the Arab culture and so on. I did it mainly because I wanted to know Maltese, which would have been a possibility to study later on and study about Arabistics. And it was more a decision out of impatience. That's a joke somehow, but yeah, because I wanted to study linguistics, but they didn't find ancient Greek, and I had ancient Greek in school. I loved it. So besides my acting and art career, I love studying languages and other cultures and getting into this mentality, because in order to be fluent in a language, you need to become a little bit more humble and accept that other ways of thinking and perceiving the world also work. And this is very interesting. So I can only tell you, please study language. It's wonderful. It's hard, but it's wonderful. Like studying a role or becoming an actor or singing, it's worth it, I tell you. But due to this study, I had a lot of conversations with Muslim colleagues in the studies. And this was very, very interesting, because we talked a lot about Christianity and Islam. And they really started to pose questions that I would never, ever have asked me if it weren't for this conversation. Like a thing once in a very long discussion, so I discussed with a colleague really the whole night through. So I think we met in the evening, and then we discussed till 6 in the morning till we decided, okay, now we have to go. So it was really, really, really very intense discussion. I loved it. And one of the questions I still remember was, or what she said, and you really believe this, that this wonderful, big, all-striking God came into our dust as a human being? So if you hear this question in this way, you really think about, I never thought about this in this way. So, okay, things like this. But nevertheless, I still was like a tiny toddler in faith, I would say, at the time. I didn't understand a lot of things. I had, of course, I was baptized as a child, had my confirmation. I did it intently, not just because it was tradition, but it was intently. I always found Jesus very interesting. I tried to live what I could. What I understood is to love your enemies. That is something I always perceived as important. And I really tried to put this in action. Nevertheless, there were a lot of things I didn't understand. And to be honest, no one even ever told me, or I didn't realize it, or, whatever. So the thing is that I then had this encounter with Jesus and the decision to make it according to his will, my life. And that changed a lot. But it led me to understand a lot of things about theology through my acting education and also the singing. Also now from teaching, singing and acting and speaking. So this is really something that I do understand, that is the language I understand, and that Jesus, that God used in order for me to understand. And I want to emphasize as well that I think it's not a big surprise for me that a pope that was an actor in the resistance against the National Socialism in Poland at his time, that this pope is developing a theology that is called a theology of the body. Because one of the main theses of the theology of the body is that the body makes known to us the invisible. And this is a very acting-like approach, because when you act, you try to grasp something invisible in order to put it into a role, in order to transmit it to an audience. So this is the short form, that's in a way you can say this is acting. And performing arts in general. It can also be dancing, it can be on stage as an opera singer. So you have different means that you use in order to perform or to make this known and visible. But in reality, it's very simple like this. We have this body, and this body tells a story. And we use this body in order to tell a story about a person in a story. So we are storytellers, and the art form is either stay on the stage acting or musical or opera or song or dancing or film. So those are the different medias that you can use in order to do this, or through the voice. I mean, the voice is always part of this. Yeah. So this is one thing. So, and the main thing that I want to start today, so this was a long introduction, I'm sorry. I hope you didn't, you're not bored by, no, how do you say this? Ennuyer would be the French one. So boring, a verb to be feel bored out. Yeah, that you don't feel bored out. So I'm sorry if it may be like this, but yeah, okay. So that happens. So now we are going to what I want to share today. So one of the first things I started to understand was that there are certain technical rules that you need to follow in order that you can transmit what you want to transmit to the audience. When you start, before you become an actor, you have talent, you have something that you want to transmit, and you try your best what you can do, but your possibilities are limited. because you don't have the technique, and very often it doesn't work, or it doesn't transmit in the way that you would like to. And so you have to find a way how to learn that what you want to transmit is going to be transmitted to the other ones. And that's called technique. And this is important because either you've got a camera that you have to act to when you're doing a film, or you're on stage and there are different stage types. So you have this, in German we say Guckkastenbühne. To be honest, I don't know the English term, but you have this theater stage where you have 3 walls and the fourth is the audience. So this, of course, just from the scenery, needs different approach how to act and embody a role than if you have an arena-like stage where the audience is all around you. The important thing is you have to act in a way that most of the audience can see you and that they also can see the other actors. You have to be able to transport your voice in a way that the people hear what you're saying. You have to be able to really embody a role, really perform, really make a very authentic human being on the stage that the audience can in a way relate to it, or even not relate, or at least have something to feel about. And that is what acting is. It's trying to impersonate someone on stage to tell a story about a human being. Most of the time, sometimes not a human being, but most of the time it's a human being, and to play it in a way to let the audience feel what you want to tell. So it's not about you feeling everything, it's about the audience. The audience has to feel it. And this is not always easy, and there are some technical things that you study in your studies. That's why you study it. And of course it's at the beginning, it's not so easy because you feel like you have got a corset on. But with the time, when this technique really enters into your art and in a way it becomes flesh, then you are free to do whatever you want because you don't have to think about every little technical issue. And this, my dear audience, is especially why it told me so much about the theology. Because in a life with God, there are some things that are important to follow, because otherwise we won't put in act the life that we are called to, and that in the most depth of ourselves we are meant to be holy, because holiness is nothing foreign to us. In reality, it's what we are in the depth of ourselves. Sin is not the main problem, especially since Jesus died on a cross and resurrected. So it's the same when you study role, or when you're starting to get to know all these technical acting things. At first, yeah, it's not easy, and you fall, you make mistakes, that's normal. The question is, how do you react by making mistakes? Do you get into depression, which what an actor really can do, and what a faithful person can do as well? When you realize, oh God, I'm a sinner, I made some stupid things and it didn't work out the way that I wanted. And yes, we are sinners and we do make mistakes. But the problem is not the mistake per se. The problem is if you stay in this mistake and you don't analyze why it came to it. And as an actor and a singer, you always need someone from outside to tell you, to make sure that what you want to express is going to be expressed and will reach the way you want it. And yeah, the thing is that as a faithful person, the important thing is that you need to really start to have a spiritual guide who looks on you from the outside, who's got a certain experience because he went through all this himself or herself, and to find out what are your main issues, because mainly not everyone has the main issues in every of the possible sins. I mean, some do, not everyone. But no matter what, you have to find the first thing that you have to start with. And then you start with one part and one step, and you will fall and you have to get up, and you will fall and you get up. And every fall will be different. And every fall, maybe, yeah, you committed the same sin, but maybe the depth of this committed sin changed, you know? Maybe the mistake is not as hard as it was before. And the good thing is, usually the mistakes are always the same. And so with the time, you learn how to address those. And something that I experienced, especially as an actress and opera singer, that the things that you struggle the most in the beginning will be your mastery at the end if you go through. And there is a saint that I made a play of for the, because I usually play for the end of the studies of the theology of the body in Austria in Heiligenkreuz. And I'm always asked to do a play about something that is incorporating the theology of the body in a way. So I made a jewel shop, I made a lecture about I think the English title is Radiance of the Father. So 2 plays of John Paul II. And then I made a play about Mary of Egypt. Very wonderful saint for our time. Wait one moment. Oh, okay. I happen to nearly have no electricity anymore. So I'll put this here. I'm sorry. Wait. Okay, so back again. And yeah, so what I want to say is that Mary of Egypt, for instance, she was an infant. You know, she when she tells Zosimas about her life, she says that she really wanted to sleep with every man, and that's why she never took money, because she was afraid that if she would take money, maybe there wouldn't be as many men to sleep with her. So she was a really nymphoman and she liked it. She wanted to do this and she did it for 17 years. You know, she started, I think she says, when she was 12. And then at that time, you know, the cross of Jesus was found. She made a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, and there she had an encounter with the Lord because she couldn't walk into the church. There was a forest that reproached her, that pushed her away. So she couldn't enter, and she tried with all her force, but it didn't work. And then she saw the icon of the Virgin Mary, and suddenly she understood that all her life, her sins, this promiscuity, were the reason why she couldn't enter. And she really started regretting her life. Then she could enter, and then she promised that she would do a life of repentance. And so she went to the desert and lived there for the rest of her life. So I think, if I counted correctly, I think she died with about 75 or 76. And she would have been, I think, 29 when she had this encounter. And she said herself because she never saw a human being or even an animal anymore till, I think, 2 or 3 years before she died. 2 years before she died, there was the Saint Zosimas, from whom we know this story, that she encountered, and that she told the story. And when he got to know her in the desert, she was so saintly that she had translocation and walked over the water. So, and she herself said she struggled 17 years with her lust and all this experience that she had in the desert when no one was. And that is a wonderful story, because you see that there are struggles that we do have for nearly the rest of our life. But she went through it, and she got it. So thanks to the help of the Virgin Mary and God. So that's really a wonderful story. And it's a theme that's very important also for the theology of the body, of course. And I think we do have a saint for our time, especially. We need her. But what I want to say is, although the struggle was so hard and so long, she never gave in. She fell, surely, but she stood up again. And with the time, when you start struggling, it's not something that's going to be easy always. It will be very hard, but that's not the problem. The problem is if you give up, because the sin is not the problem. The problem is the giving up and not trying to stand up again. And of course, what is important is to start to analyze, why did you fall again into the sin? Why? Normally there is something that led you there, and then to find the right means with your spiritual director in order to address this in the right way. And maybe this will take a time, and it's okay, that's not a problem. So what I realized through my acting education and working as an actress, and also working as an opera singer and concert singer and so on, that the life of becoming a saint and the life of becoming an artist have a lot of things in common. And one of those things is to accept that there are some rules that are necessary to follow in order that what you want, what you desire, is going to be happening, that you can express what you want to express and what God, of course, wants to express through you. So he's he knows you already. He built you. He knows who he built and what talents he gave you, what struggles you're going to go through. So, and he's always present, he's always here. We are not always here. So this is another thing. So maybe we should be here in the presence, in reality, and not always flee from reality. So this was one of the first things I understood. And what I also understood is that before you really master the technique, it will feel like a corset, that you have the impression you cannot breathe anymore, you cannot live anymore, or express what you thought you were good at expressing. But this is a phase. It's not the end, it's the beginning. Because when you are through this time, and for acting and singing education, I would say when the struggle, when you start really mastering it, it's about, let's say, 3 to 5 years when it comes to the technique. And then, of course, the experience comes in and you get better and better, of course. But 3 to 5 years are a normal time frame for things when you want to start to become a master. Under 3 to 4 years, it won't be really, really in your flesh. And I think you also see this with the apostles. Jesus had his apostles for 3 years gathering around him, and some other disciples as well. And it took them those 3 years in order to start mastering what they should master. And that's the same. And then, yeah, you have to get on your feet, get into life, and then start doing what you already learned to master. So, and then, of course, especially in the classical field, you normally say to become really a master, it takes you 10 to 15 years, If you're lucky, it might be after 8 years. But okay, so normally it takes you 10 to 15 years to really, really, really be so good and so clear in singing in the classical realm that you really are free to express and create this persona that you want to express and tell the story. But this is also because this is also one of the hardest art forms ever. So, but that's another thing. Not that acting or other singing styles are more easy, but different challenges, different challenges. So nevertheless, you need at least 3 to 5 years. Under 3 years, you're out of this world and you've got a very special blessing. But really, 3 years is already very good. Normal would be about 5 years. And what I mean with mastering is that you are master of the art and not the art is mastering you. Okay, so I hope you understand what I want to say. Yes, so I think this is what I want to say today about what I understood about faith life and artistic life, and what I understood through going this artistic way and development about faith life. And I think a lot of people don't know either of them. So some people have a very distorted view about what it means to be an actor or actress or opera singer, and others have a very distorted view about what it is to be a faithful person that's trying to become a saint. So yeah, So it's not against each other, it's helping each other. Because normally in your profession, when you are good at something, you mastered something, and then you started to see things in the world, and it also means that this is the language that you understand, and this is the language that God will take in order to help you understand what He wants you to understand, at least at the beginning. And then, the rest is grace. But probably you will get this grace. You just have to grasp it then. So hopefully it was not annoying for you to listen to what I had to say. And I hope that you started to understand a little bit of it. I appreciate if you would ask some questions, maybe what you don't understand, because I'm a professional in this. I teach a lot at the moment. Have my voice students either for speaking or for singing. I do also teach some diacon and priests as well. So the speaking skills and singing skills and how to interpret and what music is telling, and musical rhetoric as well, that you get to enter in with the time to understand it a little bit more. And yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. I'm very willing to answer whatever you want to know. And see you the next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye. Yours, Barbara Marie-Louise.